To hear that officer say today, when he got the call that Eric was probably deceased, and said, no big deal.
Shame, disgusting.
No big deal. Now, if one of your loved ones or one of his loved ones was on the ground dead and someone come up to you and say, it's no big deal?
Joining us now is Eric Garner's mother, Gwen Carr. Gwen, thank you very much for joining us tonight. And let me just begin by saying I'm sorry for your loss. I know it's been a long road to get to where you are now. It's been years, but I know the loss is something that you're never going to stop feeling. Tell us what it was like yesterday. You've thought you knew just about everything there was to know about this case up until yesterday in this Civil Complaint Review Board, and there was Lieutenant Bannon testifying. And suddenly this text comes out showing that his reaction to this, he texted, was not a big deal.
Not a big deal. That was a true slap in the face for me. Wow, my son laying on the ground dead, being murdered by one of your officers, and not a big deal. Wow, this is the culture. This is the people who we have protecting us. This is how they respond when they think someone is deceased and they're in police custody. And another thing I found out, Eric was arrested after he was dead. Have you ever? I mean, all these things came out yesterday, and I says, oh my God, how do you arrest a dead man? But that's what they did. And those police officers, they don't need to be on the force. We have to get rid of those police officers. Pandaleo's on trial, but there are other officers who are blatantly responsible for my son's death also.
And we don't know what's going to happen here, because this board makes a recommendation at the end of this, and ultimately it's the police commissioner's decision, isn't it, what happens?
That's so true. Police Commissioner O'Neill is going to make the final decision. We just hope that he makes a just decision. We hope that he gets rid of these police officers who clearly doesn't belong on the force.
And they seemed, what we discovered in the text also is they knew Eric. They knew who he was.
Yes, they did.
They were referring to him by first name.
Yes.
And so what that also tells us is they know Eric Garner is not somebody who's ever thrown a punch at them, who has ever been someone who you'd think you were going to have to deal with heavy physical force. And another police officer, a training officer, came in and testified they shouldn't have put their hands on him. They should have continued to talk to him and wait for other officers to arrive.
That's exactly what he said. And the defense attorney, Stu London, says, don't you think that was enough time? The other officer who was in charge says no. Because anytime you could de-escalate a situation, that's what you're supposed to do. There was no physical harm intended. They knew Eric would not attack them. So for him to be dead today, there is no reason for him to have been dead. But those officers, that was Pandaleo's thing. That's what he was going to do. And there was a gesture that he made after he found out that Eric was deceased on the ground. He made, like when you make a touchdown, he made that, like he did something great.
This has obviously, as it would for anyone, it's taken over your life, and you've tried to do some productive things with it. You wrote a book called This Stops Today. Eric Garner's mother seeks justice after losing her son. Here you are still pursuing the case so many years later. What I'm struck by is it's so stunning that the Civilian Complaint Review Board is just having this hearing now instead of years ago.
Well, the police officers, the NYPD, should have fired all of these police officers years ago, because the chokehold was banned for over 20 years. And in the patrol guide, it tells you in 4 or 5 different places, no chokeholds. And they describe what a chokehold is, and they said, and that, not limited to what they're saying in the patrol guide, but do not obstruct breathing, do not go for the throat. So when you seen this in the video, you should have let those officers go, especially Pandaleo. He had his hands around his neck. As my son said, he couldn't breathe 11 times, and he did not let go. There was one officer who was trying to cuff his hand. He did push Pandaleo. If you look at the video, he pushed him. So if he didn't think he was doing something wrong, why would he push him? He was kind of trying to say, in a way, let go. But he didn't do it.
Gwen Carr, thank you very much for coming in to join us tonight, and I'm so sorry that you're still having to live with this story and continue the processes with it. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're so welcome.
Gwen Carr gets tonight's last word. The 11th hour with Brian Williams starts now.